NJ.com and the Star Ledger welcome to the Rutgers Rant, your one-stop podcast for the Scarlet Knights, with your hosts Steve Politi and Rutgers insiders Brian Fonseca and Pat Lenny. Let's start chopping.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Rant, brought to you by the Heldridge. Thanks for joining us. We've got a game to talk about, and what a game it was. And this is what I woke up thinking about, fellas. Rutgers beats Ohio in exactly the game that we kind of thought would play out, and we all still freaked out. Like, that's the best way I could put it. Like, it was like, well, the offense is going to be really good. The defense is not anywhere near where it's going to be. Ohio's going to score a lot of points. It's going to be close. That's exactly what happened. And their reaction was, I can't believe that happened. I got to love it. We're in midseason form, at least the fan base, the Rutgers Rant. What do you guys think? You got to feel that same way this morning?
Before we go into the game, I have to know, am I talking to half glass full Politi? Am I talking to party pooper Politi? Where are we at right now?
I don't know. Maybe I should take off my every time I go from one to the other. I should do a different look. Like, here, this will be party pooper Politi. Right? Like that? Huh? You got a problem with that? And then this is like glass half full. Look at me. I'm a happy guy. Look at me. Going into a 3-day weekend with a football team that's 1-0. How can that be any better?
That is the half glass full view. I think it is one thing to say something is going to happen. It is a whole other thing to watch it happen. And I think people wouldn't have been surprised if we told them before the game, which we did. It could be a game going into the fourth quarter. I think when it's the fourth quarter, it's 31-all. Rutgers is getting into a bit of a shell, running the ball a lot. And you're thinking, if Ohio gets the ball back and Rutgers doesn't have a lead, they can go down and score and win this game. I think everyone was holding their breath there at the end. So it's one thing to talk about it. It's another thing to experience it. And I think because they won, that experience will be helpful to Rutgers. If they had lost, we'd be having a very dramatic episode today.
I think the one thing I woke up thinking about was after Rutgers blocked the punt and scored the touchdown, and Dino Kali came charging down the field on the ensuing kickoff and blasted that botched read or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like Rutgers should have blown the doors off right then. That's what was concerning to me the most. The game felt like it was absolutely all in Rutgers' favor at that point, and you would like to see a good team just stomp out the competition at that point. The fact that Ohio really clawed back and controlled the entire second half was a little bit alarming to me, because it felt like Rutgers really, slow start, figuring things out. Defense wasn't great, but they finally had control of that game, and then the door flew back open for Ohio. Right. That's what was a little bit alarming for me.
Yeah, that's when it changed. When the defense had the offense pinned back, especially because of that big special teams. Ohio's inside their own 5-yard line. If Rutgers gets a stop there, there's a chance they score 38 points in the first half, right? I mean, that could have been instead. Again, I think the momentum shifted there. Ohio got the opening kickoff and scored. Yeah, the game changed a little bit there, absolutely. And I do, and you're right. If you're looking to nitpick, 3 points in the second half, that's a problem. That's another thing that I was a little surprised by. It didn't occur to me until after the game when you look at it. Again, the offense had some opportunities, got deep into Ohio territory, failed to score. Maybe the big missed opportunity for Ethan Kali. He's going back on that last chance. He should have scored a touchdown on that one drive in the second half. But you're right. Yeah, this was the game was there to really blow the doors open at that point.
So a couple things. The offense in the second half, yes, they only scored 3 points. They only had 3 drives, right? The first one didn't work out. That was clearly maybe the worst drive of the day. The second one should have been a touchdown. They got the field goal. It probably should have been a touchdown. And I think we're talking a little bit differently if that one play goes the right way. And then the third one, they got really lucky with that. I don't know if it's a bad call or not. I haven't rewatched it, but that defensive holding call saved their bacon. And then they really were able to control the tempo from there. If you look at the time of possession on those last 2 drives, it was like a whole quarter, like 13 or 14 minutes, right? So they did control the ball and kill the clock. It's probably not what you want. You want them to kind of take an emphatic lead. But again, the way their defense was playing, you're playing the percentages here where, if you score, they get the ball back and they can score. If you keep the ball, they can't do anything. On the defense, I think, or I should say at the end of the half, when Dino makes that big play, Ohio's pinned back. That's the perfect opportunity to have a huge stop because one, they're pulled back and you get the momentum going into halftime. Instead, Ohio drives the length of the field. They don't score a touchdown. They score a field goal, but they continue their offensive momentum. They go into halftime. They come out and score 2 touchdowns on 2 drives and tie the game. Like, that's really a rub point in the game where things could have gone either way. And that was concerning. And that was, I think, clearly, I asked Greg this, if you felt more encouraged about the offense, the way they played, or concerned about the defense. I'll pose that to you guys. I think the answer to me is very clear. I'm not ready to hit the panic button just yet. I'm leaving that over there on that side of the desk. But as bad as I possibly thought the defense could be based on Greg's clear apprehension going into the season, that was as bad as I could have imagined.
Yeah, it's hard to argue at that point. I mean, and I think what I come back to is that the defense did really nothing well. Like, it didn't get to the quarterback. It didn't cover down the field well, even when they were in coverage, situations, didn't cover well. Didn't stop the run. Ohio had like 200 yards running. I get it. Like, Parker Navarro, I mean, Greg Schiano should be hired as his agent the way he was talking about. Ohio had a good quarterback. Ohio's good. Ohio's going to win 9 or 10 games. Like, let's get that out of the way. This was not Norfolk State, right? And then I get it. Coaches always talk up the opponent. This time he's talking up. It's a good opponent. So we should say that. But DB play was bad. Like, safety play was bad. Linebackers. I mean, scheme. I don't know. And I wonder, I guess I come back to this, Pat, like, how much of it is fixable? How much of it is really just, all right, this is game 1. They don't have a preseason, as I was reminded by some of the players. There's 6 new guys out there, but how much of this is fixable?
Let's see. I thought last year, when you had such an experienced defense, guys that were touted, people with experience and leadership, and it felt so good about the defense, and then there were moments where it crumbled. Right. This was not that. This was inexperience. This was a good opponent. So I don't think you can fix inexperience. I don't think you can fix the quality of defensive players, but I think you can get this defense to a point where it's respectable. Rutgers isn't going to win games because of its defense, but it can be competitive if its offense plays like that in any game.
So here I have 2 stats that I'll point to that you can look at it either as glass half full or as a party pooper. So the defense got 14 pressures. 14 pressures on the quarterback. That's a good number. That's a lot of chances and a lot of forcing the quarterback to move. They had 12 hurries, 2 hits, 0 sacks. That's the downside there. It's the classic issue they've had for years now, where sometimes they do get in the backfield. They do create pressure. They don't finish it. Greg said some of that is because Parker Navarro is not only fast, but he's quick, or he's quick but fast. He's both of those things. And I agree with that. I do think Parker Navarro might be one of the 4 or 5 best quarterbacks they play this year. Certainly one of the more mobile guys. And Rutgers has had a history of struggling against mobile quarterbacks, as we know. So that plays into it. But again, I am concerned about that issue is recurring despite having these 2 new guys who are highly productive. I wouldn't say Bradley Weaver and Eric O'Neill had a great debut. Maybe, again, that's the opponent. Maybe the Big Ten style of statue quarterbacks, they're more suited to be able to hit the guy. I don't know. That stat did not encourage me. The other one, Rutgers gave up 21 catches on 28 targets. That's what Parker Navarro obviously had 28 attempts. He played 21 passes. The safeties, all 8 times they were targeted, they gave up a reception. Cash Sanders gave up 6 catches on 6 targets. Jet Elad gave up 2 on 2, and one of them was a pretty deep ball where it seemed like he was out of position. That is encouraging only in the sense that I do think Greg has sort of a point on these fundamentals. Some of it could be the scheme. There's a lot of new guys learning the system, learning where they have to be. I think there is some of that to be said against the decently multiple offense with some trick plays. And Greg wasn't joking about that. They did have some interesting, there was like a pitch from the quarterback it looked like it was a draw, and then he pitched it and there was some interesting stuff there. I guess my point is that you could view it both ways. There are concerning stats that will leave you thinking this might be a long season on the defense. And there are ways of looking at it where you think if the coaching points that Greg is talking about are implemented early enough, as the season goes on, they can get better.
Right. I will say this: like Kyle Sanders is a good, he's a known quantity. Like he's going to be a better player than that. I have to assume Jed Elad, who didn't have a great game really in any way, is going to be better than that. I had concerns about the cornerbacks coming into the year. I still do. The pass rush, Pat, I don't know. Like I get it. They had hurries, Navarro, slip containment. It's going to happen. I just got to see it from that group. Like, I just don't know if these guys are going to be able to consistently bring down the quarterback. And that was a concern going in. Nothing about the game obviously changed that for me.
Absolutely. The problem is you see the production that these guys had at James Madison and Ohio, and you instantly parlay that's going to happen again. Maybe that's a product of scheme, blitzing. You don't really necessarily know how those 13 sacks went for Eric O'Neal. Was he one-on-one on every play? So there's so much you can't just say, oh, he had 13 sacks last season. It's just not transferable in any way. What you're not encouraged by, or maybe you are, maybe this goes both ways, depending on your party pooper or optimism, but Rutgers rotated a lot of guys. That's been its thing on the defensive line, keeping guys fresh. I don't know if that's working. I'm not sure that that's the answer. If you have these two guys that you went out, you thought were going to be the guys, you have a captain in Jordan Walker, got to make a play. The pressures, it's all good. I will say this, just because they didn't get a sack in this game, it's one of those things. That's the one thing you wanted to see from this Rutgers team, if not last season, at least today or last night, and it just didn't happen. So I get the feeling that the pass rush was bad. My gut reaction, I gave him a D last night, and I think that's a little bit of an overreaction based on everything we saw. Jury might still be out. Give him another week or two based on all the external factors of last night.
The thing is, to me, I can't get this thought in my head. I agree with all that, Pat, and I think that what I said again about the Ohio offense and all that stuff, ultimately, this is a MAC offensive line whose starting left tackle played 20 snaps in one game for Rutgers last year. And Rutgers got these highly productive edge rushers. They got two guys back. You've got to win a one-on-one battle and get to the quarterback at some point. Like it feels like just the physical, forget the scheme, forget all the fundamentals, forget all that stuff. Just physically, you'd have to think that those guys, at least once in the game, would be able to blow by a guy, bend around the corner, get to the quarterback, as slippery as he is. The fact it didn't happen once, that's going to be a nagging thing to me until we see them do it against Miami of Ohio. And the same could be said about pretty much every position on defense. I agree with you, Politi, that it's hard to point fingers at one position. I thought pretty much the entire unit had a rough day in Rob Smith's first game back.
Right. Almost has to be better. Let's glass half full Politi's back here. And let's talk about what was better. Obviously, the offense lived up to the billing as what we expected. Ethan goes 18-23, 252 yards, 2 TDs. I remember at least one drop and one throwaway, and that one. So those are two of the 5 incompletions. The one throw in the end zone would have been a touchdown if you'd seen it. Another. So that's a pretty good day for an offense that left points on the field. To have those numbers, what struck me about this, and this is the first time I can remember a Rutgers team having 3 Division I, like real elite wide receivers. Like you knew Ian Strong he's a pro. He's going to get drafted. You knew that was the case, But then you see, KJ Duff might have been the best receiver yesterday. He's their number 3 target. Right. Like you see that. DT was getting, like the speed he's got to get downfield. You see that. And by the way, with Ian, DT, and KJ, can we call them the IDK receivers? Can someone go for that? Just saying, throwing out there, trying to confirm it. I thought I just thought that, there was a lot to like there with the offense. And then we're not even talking about the 2 very good running backs. Sam Brown still not playing. Like you got a 3rd running back. You got depth there. If there's an injury, they'll be okay. And then we thought tight ends were going to be a huge part of this offense. They only got two throws last night. Like there's a lot there that this was a really good performance, and there's a lot more that we haven't seen from this unit.
Yeah, I mean, again, the flip side of the defense, it's like I don't know where to start about how
Exactly.
which all part of the offense was more encouraging. The wide receiver core, I think, has a chance. I wrote this to be the best they've had since the Kenny Britt, Tyquan Underwood, Tim Browns of the 07-08 era. And it's like they're so different. To your point, they said I talked to Ian Strong and DT Sheffield after the game, and they both said that when they got the play call for the DT Sheffield 56-yard touchdown, they knew it was going to be one because he was going to blow by his guy, which he did. He had acres of space, and Ethan dropped it in a bucket for him. And then you have guys like Ian and KJ are so strong. They can catch the ball in contested areas. Ian was one of the best contested catcher receivers of the college football last season. Yesterday, he had 2 contested catches on 2 attempts. He was 7 of 7 on 7 targets. He caught some balls behind him. He caught balls in traffic. He caught balls deep. He caught balls short. He caught, and KJ was the same thing. It felt like every drive was a new guy's drive. First drive was DT. Third drive was KJ. One of them was Ian. So just a lot of options. I guess one thing you didn't mention, Play, that I'll bring up is, and I'll bring up this, sorry about bringing this up earlier, the technical difficulties are with the Rutgers Rant podcast early on this season, but this is just the breakdown of the snaps of the offense. To me, the big key here is there's a lot of mystery about the offensive line. I think the one good thing about yesterday's close game is that you knew they weren't messing around with rotations, and you kind of get an idea of who are the guys right now. Yeah. The 4 guys on the offensive line that seem set are the 3 interior guys, which we knew, and then Taj White seemed to really solidify the right tackle spot. And then left tackle, which was the big mystery. Dante Chin started there, and aside from 7 snaps that went to Tyler Needham, who we thought was going to win the job entering the spring, he had them. And aside from the 1 sack he gave up early on the first drive, he didn't give up another pressure, let alone sack, in 22 other pass blocking attempts. So I was encouraged by the offensive line. Again, they're not playing the world beaters. They're not playing these big elite Big Ten edge rushers. But when you have the defensive line playing that well, when you have receivers that can catch, when you have running backs who did a decent job, I thought, in their first game without Kyle Monangai, it's hard not to feel really good about where this offense stands.
I'd leave that up for me because I'd love to see those grades when we get them, because I thought Taj White passed the eye test certainly. Zelinkus, you knew would, and there were a couple of plays the confidence that Greg Schiano has to go on 4th and 1 or 4th and 2. We'll talk about 4th and 7 later, but I mean to go on 4th and 1 and 4th and 2 is built on this, right? Like he's got faith in this offensive line, and I feel like I'm comfortable saying that they finally have rebuilt this position. Like this looks like a Big Ten offensive line. I get it. You're going to face some really good defensive fronts. There's going to be some struggles during the Big Ten season. But overall, it's hard to argue with what we've seen there. Yeah. And here you go. Taj White am I getting that? He was the SMO. I'm sorry. SMO was the top rated, lineman, but Taj White did really well, 68.6 grade according to the grades. So not bad. Yeah.
Just want to make a quick point about the receivers that you brought up, and obviously everything you said about their exceptional play was tremendous. Let's think about what Greg Schiano did to get those guys on campus. Ian Strong came to Rutgers as a safety. People thought he was going to play defense. Right. Greg immediately identified this is a guy that can be a pro at wide receiver. KJ Duff thought it was going to be a tight end, put him at wide receiver. Now you have 2 stalwart guys with seemingly pro careers at the end of the day. You go out and get DT Sheffield in the transfer portal to fit the speed missing element there. It's a tremendous feather in Shiano's cap that he identified the talent, got 2 local guys out of New York to come to Rutgers, and then a big transfer portal addition. Mm-hmm. I thought the guy that we haven't talked about enough, it wasn't getting the big publicity after this game, was CJ Campbell. I thought from the eye test, when that guy got the ball, the speed that he exploded through the hole with was exceptional. After watching Monangai the last couple of years, right, he hit the hole hard, but CJ Campbell was so explosive and fast, I thought. Antoine Raymond looked the part as well. He was great. But I thought CJ Campbell, especially on that last drive when Rutgers had to move the chains, he was great, and he was so good early on. I think he's going to be maybe a guy that really takes this and has an exceptional season. If I had to pick right now, whether I would have Raymond or Campbell take a lion's share of the carries, I would lean Campbell because I think he has that explosive element to his game.
I think you're spot on. I think the clear distinction there between this thunder and lightning idea. Raymond fits the Monangai mold.
Yeah.
Small sample size. He had 9 pass blocking snaps. Campbell had 3. So clearly, when they felt like they had to have a guy back there pass blocking with Ethan, an extra guy, they went with Raymond. He was the first guy to take the running back snaps. He took the majority of them, and a lot of them were, again, like going through the middle, breaking tackles, the hard running that Monangai did. And Campbell could be that change of pace guy that, Raymond tires the defense out. He goes for the explosive play. He'll be, to your point, the guy. If there's a guy that has a 70-yard touchdown run this year, it's going to be CJ Campbell.
No doubt.
I don't think they've had a running back with the breakaway speed like him in a while. Like Monangai, he got into the open field. He never really was able to finish those long runs. Campbell might be able to. And then Deshaun Benjamin had not a big role, but he had a role. Not only was he fair catching punts, which is a big deal, obviously. And I mean that sincerely. I hope I didn't come off as a joke. I do mean that sincerely. He beat out a couple of talented returners for that job. But he did get some key carries in the fourth quarter. They trusted him. So I think the rotation will sort itself out. But I do think they have 3 really good options. It's just crazy to me that, watching this Rutgers offense, and I hate to keep going back to this, but 7 years ago, you watched the Rutgers offense. It was hard to find one guy. You had Bo Melton and then 10 other guys. It was hard to find one good guy. Now it's like there's not enough snaps on the field to get all the good guys you have.
Right.
So it's really, really encouraging.
I mean, half the programming for this podcast for 3 years was me ranting about the fact that you used to have Kenny Britt, Mark Harrison, Tim Brown. You had these receivers. I mean, now you've got Kenny Britt, Mark Harrison, Tim Brown. Like that's like the best comparison you can make, those 3 guys right now. I mean, it's pretty damn close now that I think about it. Like you've got that back. There was 1 passing yard against Indiana in 2019. There were games where, and to me, like that's it. Like that's when a team is hopeless. When you can't move the ball at all, you can't expect to win these games. And there were some games where they played well defensively, like lose 14-12 to Iowa or something where, like you just can't. Even early in Shiano's tenure, they went out to Iowa and you thought, oh, we got a chance to upset. Like, you can't score a single point. You can't move the ball. You can't do anything. Like that to me, if you're looking for a reason to be positive about this team, I get it. The defense looked bet, but they're going to score against anybody. I really do believe that. I think that this is an offense that's capable of scoring against a Penn State defense, of scoring against the good teams on the back half of that schedule. It doesn't mean they're going to win the game. But it gives you hope that they can win the game. I guess that's what I come back to. And they didn't have that in previous years. That's what's different here. This team might still be 6-6, might still be 7-5. I don't know. But at least when you see what that offense is capable of, when you watch it and you see the potential, and we're sitting here talking about, which running back's better and which of these 3 receivers is better, it's a completely different vibe.
What I would say is I agree with you. When you're playing the big boys, the Ohio States and Oregon, those, no matter how good your defense is, barring like the elite Rutgers defenses, they're going to score anyway, right? Ohio State's going to put up 35 points against almost anybody. When you have an offense that can match that against their elite defense, then that's when you're really in a situation where you can cause some nerves in Columbus. The flip side, though, is to that Iowa. I thought that's a perfect game, the 2022 Iowa game, where it felt like the defense was standing on its head and then the offense was running to a brick wall every time they had the ball, right? And they ultimately lost that game, I think 12-10 or something. It's going to be the opposite, where Iowa's incompetent offense, which looks like it'll be better this year, will be able to score against the Rutgers defense, right? This is not the 2022 defense. And while the Rutgers offense will be able to score against Iowa, instead of being a 12-10 game, it's going to be a 41-38 game, right? So the issue is that while the offense has gotten significantly better, I think it's clear to say that the defense from that 22-23 era has gotten significantly worse. At least, again, small sample size. I don't want to kill the defense right away, but from where we're sitting right now, that's the way the season's going to, like I wrote, it's going to be a roller coaster, I think. It's going to be a long year, a fun year, a stressful year, but interesting, I think is the best way to put it.
All right, let's talk about Gregory Michael Schiano for a minute. Gregory Edward Schiano. His middle name should be Michael. I go back to this all the time because I thought he coached a terrific game, and we kill him on this podcast when things go wrong, justifiably. Ice the kicker. We all know. We get it. 3 hours on Saturday. He's got a reputation sometimes as a bad game coach that's deserved, but there are days like this where it's not. I mean, he coached a hell of a game. 5 times you go for it on 4th down. And this is not even just about the results. For me, every one of those times I'm like, absolutely. this is a go situation, including the 4th and 7. Like when they were out in the field and you're like, all right, well, I wonder what the book says here. Like you kick the field goal, go up by so they can't tie it, late in the game. I don't know what it would have said, but the entire time I'm thinking, win the game. It's 4th and 7. You got your offense out there. You're deep in Ohio territory. Go win the game. And he did. I give him credit for being aggressive, for having a good feel for what was going on there. Another punt block, another touchdown off the special teams. Like, it doesn't get enough credit for that. Like, I thought this was really a good performance by the coaching staff, especially of the in-game decisions.
Quick on the punt block. This is where the punt block threat is so powerful. Twice on snaps to the punter, they're just it's like a hot potato. They're just begging to get it out as quick as possible, and that's why they were able to block the punt, because I think they probably should have just taken the sack or whatever, because once you bobble the snap, it's over, and clearly we saw that. So that's the, when you talk about risk reward, what Greg talks about on special teams, that's the reward for just having the threat. On the decisions to go for on 4th down, again, I thought it was a clear showing from Greg of the confidence that he talked about on this offense all preseason. It could not be more clear. Like, even if they didn't convert 5 of 5 on 4th down, the long-term benefit of showing these guys, hey, I'm trusting you, go for it in the first drive of the game, go for it on 4th and 7 in this absolutely crucial drive in the 4th quarter. He put his words into actions. I think that's infinitely beneficial. And I think obviously an even more benefit is that they converted on those. Great sign that they're able to, in those spots where everyone in the stadium is just tenser than a tennis racket, just absolutely brimming with nervousness. They're able to pull that off. It takes big culhões to make that call. And I think it takes massive confidence in your team to go for it. Big credit to Greg Schiano for sure.
And Pat, it's confidence in Kirk Shiraka too. Like that play call on 4th and 7, he made the point that Ohio doesn't blitz a lot. They sent a bunch of guys on that play. They picked it up, just that running past the chains, like little things like that. You're like, it wouldn't have surprised me in a different Rutgers universe if that's a 5-yard pass on 4th and 7. We'd be sitting there, no, but just stuff like that to a new guy who had dropped the pass earlier. They showed confidence in going back to him. Just a lot to like there.
Yeah, I think Kirk Shiraka has just been the perfect play caller and exactly what Shiano needed at the right time 3 years ago. Let's forget that without Shiraka, there's no Ethan Kaliak-Manis. That I'm not even going to bring that up, but that's the reality too. Yeah. I thought one of Greg's best performances in this coaching game was the preparation. Everything that he said was going to happen in this game is exactly what happened in this game, which was why making this prediction was an easy one this week, I felt, because I just listened to what Shiano was saying and everything. He nailed everything. Parker Navarro is going to be a great quarterback. The defense is going to be a work in progress. The offense we have extreme confidence in. So I think he knew he had a vision for exactly how this game was going to go, almost to a script. And having that knowledge, I thought, made his job easier to go for it in those 4th down situations, and especially the last one, which I at the moment thought, you're crazy. Take the field goal where you have an automatic kicker at this point. Take the field goal, get the 6-point lead, and make sure they don't drive down the field. So what do I know? But I remember arguing with you about that in the press box.
I have to admire you, Pat, because you were wrong with a capital W on the pick. But turned out people were cursing you. If you don't follow the podcast, Pat picked Ohio to win the game despite the 15-point spread. And fans, of course, took that really well. Like, we were getting comments like, "He was the only one I liked. Now I hate all of you the same." That was my favorite comment. I love it. Let's laugh out loud. I thought he was the good guy. This Lanny sucks too. Anyway, so everyone flipped out about that. But then in the 4th quarter, instead, you would think people would be like, "Oh, I guess Lanny had a point." Instead, it was like, "I still hate Lanny." That was like the comment, like your friends, you're for Keli, you're killing people. Their friends were texting me like, I don't want him to be right about this. That would really piss me off. But yeah, no.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, There are some weeks where I have no idea what to expect, what my prediction is going to be. But I always listen to what Shiano has to say, and you can almost pick your prediction based off of that. And I felt coming out of his press conference Monday, I was like, that's exactly. He's giving us exactly what's going to happen in this game. And he nailed it. Everything he said, I thought was exactly what happened. I just, took my notes there, moved on.
I did think it was funny that someone threatened to block Lanny if he was right because they just couldn't handle him. I guess they were worried he would be gloating or something. Pat doesn't strike me as the gloating kind of guy,
No,
but they were
Me
faint.
or you, we would have gloated. We would have totally gloated.
Oh, I would have gloated for weeks.
Yes.
I would have gloated immediately and then just reminded people throughout the year every time I made a pick. Sorry,
That's
my
exactly
thought
who I've been on the Rutgers Rant. Exactly. I'd be the gloating guy to come in here and just be like, see, Rutgers fans, I told you, you suck. You suck. You
That's the
lost to
reputation.
Ohio, a team that I said is the gold standard of the group of five, a team that has 3 10-win seasons in the last 5 years and won its back championship. This team that's horrible.
I am curious what that 7-year-old who apparently knows more about Rutgers football than us thought about that game. We should have them on as a guest.
Be good. Absolutely.
And listen,
replace
they
me
might.
next week. I'm all for it. Yeah, get them a microphone.
They might be better than us. I'm not putting that. It's a very low bar to clear. On going for it on off, it's just not to beat a dead horse on the defense, but I also think that going for it on 4th and 7, when you could have a field goal to make it a 6-point game, is a clear sign that I'm not sure they were confident that if Ohio got the ball back, they wouldn't score a game-winning touchdown, which I agree with. The reason I like the call is because if you put the ball in Parker Navarro's hands with a chance to score a touchdown, and he scores a touchdown, you're not going to have enough time on the clock to clean that up and get a game-winning field goal. So, and if they didn't convert that 4th and 7, again, very nervy ending in Piscataway. So be glad they did.
All right, let's dive into some questions. If you're not on so we got a lot going on here. Like we have social media channels that even I'm not aware of, apparently. Like we've got like the Discord, which I knew of. We've got like an email account. Didn't know that. We've got Facebook now. Do we got Instagram? We got Instagram. We got the TikTok. We got the MySpace. We got everything. We got the whole thing. Like there are things, there are channels. Do we have like what's the with the white supremacists organized?
Truth Social.
Are we on Truth Social?
Is it Gab?
What?
Gab, right? Gab, something like that?
Oh, Gab.
The guy. I thought Gab was like, anyway, we've got everything.
Gab, Nick.
Yeah, we're good. So you can find us. The Discord's humming. We did after the game last night. This is something we're trying. We did like a live YouTube video, and like it took us 10 years to figure out how to get the audio right in our homes. So you can imagine that we didn't quite nail it on the first time, but we're going to figure it out. We're going to do it right after the game because it takes Greg Schiano an hour and a half to get from the locker room, to the press conference. So we've got time to have like a little Gab session on YouTube Live. That went pretty well. We had like about 50 people in there for the first time. Not bad. So next week when you're in your car getting ready to get out of the tailgate, you're in traffic, just sit there for a minute. We'll take some questions. We'll talk. We'll give you a very raw feeling about what we saw in a quick video after games. It was a good idea, and we'll have the sound right this time. But the
Hand
point
up on the sound. That was my fault. I forgot to turn on the mic. That's my bad. We will fix that next time.
Right. Okay. Well, we'll let it go. All right. But as always, we take questions on X and on the Discord channel, which now is really humming in there. The big question, how you feeling, was one I got a bunt. Are we more optimistic, more pessimistic, or neutral spot than we were from before the game? I mean, I know we expected the defense to struggle, but we're screwed when we get into conference games, aren't we? I don't know. I think if I had to go one direction, like I would probably be neutral, but if I had to go one direction overall, I think I'm more optimistic. I know it sounds crazy. I just think, I don't know. I think this offense is going to put them in a position to win some games. Like, and I get it. Defense is bad, but I don't know. You guys agree? Where are you at? More or less optimistic?
More optimistic because Rutgers would have lost that game in a lot of ways. And Rutgers found a way to win. And sometimes that gets overlooked. So the offense gives you a chance in any game if you can score points, as you've said many times on this podcast already, Politi. Oregon's going to score 45 points, right? That's kind of who it is. Can you match it? This Rutgers team maybe has a shot, and you wouldn't say that a couple of years ago, obviously. So I would lean optimistic as now the pessimistic guy on the podcast speaking.
That's negative Nelly.
I am roughly with you as far as neutral, but if I had to pick a side, the offense is not going to get worse, or at least if they do, it'll be very, very slight. I think this offense is legit. The defense is probably going to get better, right? It can't go on like this.
I don't know.
So in that vein, I think they'll get better as the season goes on. I think this team, as we predicted, I'm very even more certain of this, will win games they're not supposed to. They will upset somebody. My guess is Illinois, because the options of teams they can upset realistically is small. I can see them beating Illinois and Iowa, whatever. Washington on the road. They will lose to somebody they shouldn't. I feel very confident in that. Having watched that game, I could totally see it happening. Like, I would be very surprised if they didn't. I don't know who, but they're going to lose a game 41-38. It's going to crush people, but I just can't see it not happening.
Most of the questions regarding the defense are along the lines of maybe too premature, maybe. But based on the first game, is this the worst Rutgers defense since 2004? It's probably too. I'm going to go too premature. There were some bad. I think there's some teams that that weren't good in there. Here's a good one. Not to get greedy, but if this team with this offense had last year's defense, what would the ceiling be? Interesting question. Let's go there. I think obviously you've got, an NFL cornerback would help. One of the best linebackers in recent school history would help. Even injured Tyree Powell would help. It would be better. I think this would be, it would certainly change a lot of things. This is the problem with, how often does a program like Rutgers get everything going at the same time? Like, it's tough. I think it's clear they've invested a lot of resources in this offense. They didn't keep Ian Strong for free, right? Like, I think they clearly they've probably, I would love to see the where the breakdown of the money that they're spending on this team went. And I think you're going to see that. And I'm not saying they didn't spend on defense. We know they went out and got guys like Jetty Ladd. They filled holes that way. Bradley Weaver didn't come here for free. I understand that, but I think that's part of what you're seeing here too. Brian, agree?
Sorry, but I missed the mute button 3 times. If you gave me this offense, what we project it to be, and the 23 defense, that team probably goes 8-4. Maybe they upset Ohio State. I feel pretty good about that. Again, it's hard to. Every game does take on a life of its own. I know we hear that a lot from Greg, but It is true. You never know if the game would break out the same way as it did that day. But I feel pretty confident they'd have an 8-4, maybe 9-3 record, because this is the best offense Rutgers has had in at least 10 years, maybe 18 years or whatever. And that defense was just about as good as any defense I've seen at Rutgers. Right. So I think they'd be pretty freaking good.
Yeah.
Last year's defense was, while this defense lacks experience, last year's defense was supposed to be the one. And think about how inconsistent it was and head scratching that one was when Powell was hurt. Obviously, Longer Beam was playing dinged up. All the Eric Rogers was dinged up. Like, all these guys were playing through injuries, and it kind of made sense. But 23, you're right. Absolutely, Brian. That was, if you're going to pair this Rutgers offense with a team, that defense that was sensational, and Max Melton was obviously the star of that defense, add another great player to the secondary would be tremendous. What would be the ceiling? Yeah. 8-4 sounds pretty good. I don't know. That's reasonable. Even here's an even funner exercise. Put Kaliak Manis on that 23 team. How many games does that team win? Does it knock off Michigan or Ohio State? I mean,
that's a great point. That's I think in some ways that's a better one, right? If you weren't hiding the deficiencies of a quarterback on that team. Yeah, it's a great, And I know we all were watching Jacksonville State last night to see what Gavin Wimsatt would do in his new starting job. But that's a great point.
Gavin Wimsatt probably should have won that game. I don't know how many people watched it. At the end of the game, they have a 4th and 1. They're driving. If they convert this 4th and 1, they're in good position to kick a field goal to win the game. And they just do a hurry up offense give it to a running back who doesn't hit the hole and he gets tackled behind the marker. You have Gavin freaking Wimsatt. How do you not run a tush push? Of all the thing Gavin Wimsatt does well is run the ball. Give him the. My mind was blown watching that game. For once, I'm not blaming Gavin Wimsatt for them losing that game. I thought he played fine.
I'm going to Google the Jacksonville State offensive coordinator's name so we can fire him. Jacksonville
I think
State.
it's Clint Trickett. He was an offensive coordinator.
How do you know this?
Well, I was watching the game last night.
Oh yeah, Clint Trickett. Well, that's the perfect name for like if you were to invent a name of an offensive coordinator for some, and he looks like it too. He looks like the perfect Clint Trickett, Jacksonville State offensive coordinator. You're fired. We're firing you, Clint Trickett.
Give my guy Gavin a chance.
Give him a chance.
He did have a nice conversion to fellow former Rutgers wide receiver DeAndre Johnson, 6'8", got way up there to make a nice catch. But the game-losing interception that sealed the game. Jaden Bellamy, blast from the past, New Jersey native.
Wow.
Big fourth quarter. He picked off Gavin Wimsatt to end the game.
Interesting. Wow. Huh. Lots of Jersey stuff going on there. All right, a couple more questions before we ditch this pod. The D-line came up a couple of times. Historically, Rutgers has always had a few decent to solid defensive linemen. Even in down years, we were able to generate pressure. However, over Shiano 2.0, it feels like we haven't been able to develop any D linemen. Is it a coaching issue, or are we just unable to find athletic enough players? I'm going to tell you what it is, or at least one thing it is. Like Rutgers, the key to the success for Greg Schiano was taking undersized, fast defensive linemen, and when you could do that in the Big East against, the offensive lines they played, it's harder to do that in the Big Ten. I think that is one thing happening. You need size to go with the quickness, like Eric Foster, these guys they had along the line who could generate pressure. And it worked. I mean, look at the D line on that 06 team. Look at the guys they had there who could get to the quarterback. I think it's just a different world. And I also think the other part of it is, especially now in the NIL world, the D line's the most expensive position. That's got to be part of it too. Like they just haven't been able to keep, and that's the one position they've lost guys at, right, Brian? I mean, like it's hard to keep, retain, develop, and and certainly get him in the portal.
If you want to look at what Rutgers veteran defensive edges could be, go watch Louisville this weekend, where Wesley Bailey and Renee Conga are both at. Right, those are two guys that were in the program that got developed and left, right? And then to your point, defensive end is a very expensive position in the portal and a very sought after position in high school recruiting. It's very hard to get those guys and to get tackles. It's no coincidence that Rutgers' best offensive tackle in the Greg Schiano 2.0 era was a walk-on who showed up in the parking lot and they developed into a really good offensive lineman. The same thing hasn't happened on the defensive line. Jordan Walker is a great story. Great. And he could be really good, but
he will be really good this year. Yeah.
I think so. But he's a walk-on wide receiver who developed into a defensive end, right? Like Rutgers is not getting these premium guys that make a difference, right? So I think that plays part in it. To the point about the pressure, they do create pressure. Like the pressure numbers are decent. They just don't sack the quarterback, which is the most important part. And that's the edge, right? That Greg Schiano talked about the difference being inches. That's the difference in talent as well, right? Like they have the talent to get there. They don't have quite the guys that are quick enough, strong enough to get to the quarterback.
I just think Rutgers has had good defensive linemen in the last 5 years. Keontae Hamilton is a perfect example of a guy that developed into an NFL prospect. Had a great season last year.
Yep.
Aaron Lewis was a guy that came in with some accolades as a high school player, transferred from Michigan, whatever.
Talked to Eric Joseph at the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, right? I mean, what am I thinking of? Yeah, absolutely. There are some guys. There are names.
There are guys. So it's not.
I'm sorry. Yes, Eric Joseph. God. Yeah.
Eric Joseph is the player personnel guy.
Right. Okay.
It's not like Rutgers hasn't had guys on its defensive line. I think that narrative is wrong. I think it's just Rutgers hasn't had game-changing plays from its defensive linemen like it had in Shiano 1.0. Think of like the Scott Valones or Manny Abreu, right? Like wrecking things off the edge, like or Valone in the middle. But that's the difference. You're not seeing disruptive plays from the line. Right. It's been that's just been head scratching. And I think Greg's the first one to admit it.
And I think the big part here is that your best edge rusher of the Greg 2.0 era missed 2 seasons with injury and just transferred out of his senior year to go to Miami. Like Mo Toure was a big part of this that's been missing. You saw, speaking of the 23 defense, you saw what he could do for Rutgers in that year under Greg Schiano. That's a bit of bad luck, but you can't really fault anyone for that.
You mentioned 3 very good defensive linemen that are on other teams, right? Like right there, Louisville, Miami. Yeah, the guys with a payroll. Let's look at it that way. All right, last question. Joe Martucci Weather, one of our favorites. Getting the forecast. Forecast was perfect, by the way. What a great night in Piscataway. Any ideas as to how President Tate and Keli Zinn impressions of their first football game? I think they had a good time. Keli Zinn certainly was buzzing around the stadium. Brian, I don't want you to spoil the story you have coming up, but you spent some time with her at tailgates, saw her in action. I think the fans saw what we've seen in like 3 weeks, just kind of a very charismatic, very outgoing person, front facing, good at that part of the job, right?
Yeah, every time I sat down with Keli Zinn, I've left the room feeling better about where things stood. I think every fan that she shook hands with and took photos with and Taylor ham, egg, and cheese with, I don't think she will have an official position on that name, by the way. I know where she's leaning, but I will not spoil that. I think she's being neutral as any good politician would on such a divisive issue. But yeah, everyone shook she shook hands, she smiled, she made everyone feel good. And I think people really appreciated the effort of her going around the tailgates and meeting. It's one thing for her. The first 3 weeks, she's met with pretty much everyone with a job at Rutgers, coaches, athletes, administrators. I mean, she has been all over the place. But for the fans to see her out there and to have even if it is 2 minutes of talking with her, having a photo they can post on social media and just feel that connection, I think it goes a long way for a fan base that, let's face it, has not donated a lot of money. I don't think this will suddenly, make the coffers of Rutgers explode now. I do think, though, it builds a lot of goodwill and makes people feel good about going to a Rutgers game. What's the number one thing that makes people feel good? Wins. What's the number two thing? Feeling like they're a part of the process, a part of the thing. And I think Keli did a really good job in her first game of doing that. And as a reward, her and President Tate, who was his birthday yesterday, each got a game ball in the post-game locker room. So I would say a pretty good day for both those guys.
Yeah, the band gave a little tribute to President Tate too, right? Wasn't there like a happy birthday at the? Yeah, so yeah, I think they had a good introduction to the Scarlet fans. Although I was joking in the press box, like I wondered if Keli Zinn, like around 6 o'clock when she looked her in the stadium, and like there's no one in there because of course, we can't get to games on time. I don't want to, here's negative Steve. Take my glasses off. Can't get to the games on time. I wondered if Keli Zinn, looked at her watch and was like, I thought it was 6 o'clock. Did I get that wrong? Like. At LSU, we're all here. Death Valley, the place is filled. We're y'all folks. Get stuck in the bayou. What happened? No, I did think that was kind of funny, but yeah. So good atmosphere. And the final thought that I'm going to have here was that we killed the horn until we didn't. And this is like a good lesson this was like one of those movies where you think the bad guy's done. And there's still like 15 minutes left in the movie. Like, this is what happened. We're in the press box. And I don't know how it came up. Like, we're like, you know what? Oh, I haven't heard the horn the entire game. And it was like, oh, good point. We killed the horn. And then all of a sudden it was like, it was like right away. Like, the horn was hiding behind, in the basement with a knife. And it killed us. The horn's alive. What happened? How did the horn make that comeback, fellas?
I think the fact it was the fourth quarter and it was a 31 all game and they needed a defensive stop. They took whatever plan they had to lower the volume and lower the horn, and they said, scrap that. Let's get the horn out here, pull out all the stops. We got to stop the Bobcats. I will say the first 3 quarters were maybe the most enjoyable experience I've had viewing a Rutgers football game. It was the music was at a reasonable volume. Yep. The train horn, if it even blew up in the first 3 quarters, was perfectly reasonable, just loud enough.
Right.
I think fans, the few feedback I got was they enjoyed being able to talk to the person next to them, and they felt like they were, part of the game and not just kind of sitting in the stands listening to a Avicii concert or whatever. So whoever makes these decisions, I don't know exactly how the sausage is made. But if you're listening to this, thank you for those first 3 quarters. And for the love of God, please keep this going. It would be the greatest. Of all the things Keli Zinn does, I don't know how influential she was in this, but I will remember this as the crowning achievement of her tenure at Rutgers, if she can keep this going.
That's great. Pat, final thought, because your voice sounds like you're to die. So I'm going to let you give the final thought here.
1-0 in the Keli Zinn era, right, Fonseca?
4-0-3, 4 wins, 0 losses, 3 ties. And as we're recording this, field hockey is going to start their season. And the powerhouse that they are, I'm sure they'll make it 5-0-3. So she might get out of August, her first month as the Rutgers AD, undefeated. Pretty good start.
She's quit right now. That's it. I'm going out on top. All right. We're going to go out on top for Fonseca Lanny, for Party Pooper Politi. Signing off here. We'll be back late next week to preview the next Ohio team on the schedule, Miami of. Thanks for listening.